It's about time.
Welcome everybody to Quick Cast episode 10. My name is Jeremy Paul, aka Sleepy Juice, and this is StarCraft 2, so let's get into it. Today we'll be looking at a TVZ between our blue Terran, Matt Overmind, and our red Zerg hero today, Madison. Now, this is a very, very long game, and we'll be looking at this game on Derelict Watcher, which is a two-player map. We have some watchtowers on the outside and a large open area being outside of the natural, in between the natural and the third, with third being on the raised ground. Other than that, we have some thinner channels going through the middle that can make for some interesting play with like banelings and other things, but that's not something that we'll kind of look at today. Today, normally on QuickCast, we go through and we pick a topic to learn about. Now, this game is incredibly long, and I've watched it all, so we're not going to be doing that. Instead, what we're going to do is we're going to take this game and we're going to cast it just kind of looking at the engagements and the exciting moments of the game. So we'll be jumping around a little bit, and we'll see who comes out on top between the Terran and the Zerg here. So, as we're going into this, we're going to jump straight ahead to the 7-minute mark to see exactly what's going on. Now, we have a Terran player moving out with some Hellions. Now, he's going for a Hellion expand. He's already got that command center down, and the Zerg player is going to defend against these Hellions. The Hellions is going to go into the third first of the Zerg, make sure there's nothing there. Meanwhile, the Zerg player has made roaches, and he's going to counter-attack at the same exact time. Now, the Hellions are seen by the Overlord there, and they're going to come in and push up to these Queens are. One of them splitting off just due to a misrally, and these ones are going to get away. Now, it should be noted that this is, I believe, a gold or silver level game, so nothing's going to be too spot on. We do see that the Terran has the Banshees out also. It's pretty standard opening, going for Hellion and Banshee, get that pressure onto the Zerg players so that they're needing to defend and make units instead of just droning up. But we do see the roaches coming in, and there is a bunker there. But the roaches are taking down all of these SCVs, and they're going to be able to push directly up this ramp as the SCVs are pulled off the natural to repair. And unfortunately, the supply depot was left down, and these roaches and the two lings are pulling in there, and they're going to go to town on these SCVs here. Now, the SCVs get pulled away, and that's great. And it looks like the roaches are going to come back into those Hellions there. And it looks like a little bit of mismicro there as the roaches go one way or another, but they're going to come back and be finally taken out in these Hellions after taking out one or two of them there. But the mining time is dropped down. Now we're going to jump ahead to the 10:42 minute, where we can see that the Zerg player and the Terran player are still going at it. Now, we do have a large drone leak for the Zerg player, so the Zerg player is going to be getting further and further ahead. He's already on 3 bases. The Terran player is still stuck on 2. We'd have an engagement here where the Hellions and Banshees are going to come in with some Widow Mines. Now, there is Cloak on the Banshees there, so they're able to go unseen, and the Widow Mines are going to go unseen also. But here comes the Overseer, and it looks like the Queens, being the only anti-air right now, are trying to get the Banshees taken down before they can do any substantial damage. There's just not enough now. There's 2 Banshees left, but this move right here is brilliant. The roaches are going to pull away like for a counterattack, and those Banshees are going to chase them the entire time. Those Banshees are going to be wasting their energy because they're cloaked. Now, the roaches are not going for a full counterattack. He's literally just pulling them off to this corner here to pull those Banshees away from his bases, and it works amazingly. We do have a third Banshee coming out right now. It's coming across the map, but those roaches have wasted that entire pool of energy, and there's that ends the attack. He's basically going to have to sit here and wait for the energy pool. So now let's go ahead and jump ahead to about the 12:50 mark. It's exactly the 12:50 mark, and we've see the Zerg player going into Mutas. He's going to be going with the standard Muta, Baneling, Speedling combination for that mid-game army to deal with Bio. Now, what we have is, in this case, he's going to try to poke in here to get these turrets and to get that tech lab, but there's just not enough Mutas to do that. Now, unfortunately, the problem with Mutas is that anti-air is actually rather effective until you get a large enough quantity of them. He went three hatcheries before going into the Mutas, and as we jump to the 14-minute, seeing that those Mutas were not really effective on their own, he's going to keep trying. He's going to now poke around at the third base, or what will be the third base. He still has a high advantage of drones, And we can see that the Zerglings here are going to come in and try to take out this also, but they have that Terran army there, and the Terran going for more of a mech feel. This army composition of the Banelings, Mutas, and Lings is just not going to be super effective. Now, we are seeing that all of the tanks and everything are taken down. The Hellions are still alive. The Banshees were taken down, but these turrets are going to be a problem, and the mines are going to be a problem for these Mutas. Now, it is more common to deal with these kind of the mech builds with a little bit different composition. So let's go ahead and talk about that composition as we're jumping ahead to the 1839 mark. Now, the Terran player has been very passive this entire game, but meanwhile, we're still going for this like lean army, and you can see he's going to run in and take out these Widow Mines here over at the 4th base. The Terran is having a lot of trouble getting these bases up. We have the Zerg player on the other hand on 5 already, so he's macroing fine. He's able to pull this stuff out. Now we do have, hopefully this Overseer gets here in time, and he is. He's going to take out that Widow Mine. These Lings get a little bit shot apart while they're running past the army, but that is a very large mech army, and these Thors are going to take very good care of the Mutas. The tanks and the Widow Mines are going to take good care of the Lings and the Banelings. So it's not the best composition. So what composition is he going to go for this? And we kind of, as this army's taken out and the Terran army starts pushing forward, we're going to see what composition the Zerg player goes through. So let's go ahead and switch to about the 20-minute mark and see what he comes up with next. So as the Terran player is moving his Hellions around, he's going to be poking around trying to find, he's actually coming up to the 6th base now for the Zerg player, and he's going to poke around there. He has a couple of Hellions going out, he's going to check and see for the 5th base, but it's going to get massively surrounded by all the Lings. We can see that the Lings are still in play here. Now we do have a Greater Spire coming out, which is a nice addition here, and we'll see what he does with that. The actual upgrades for this game are actually rather close. We have 2-2 on pretty much everything there, with only 1 attack for the air for the Zerg. We finally have a 4th base coming down for the Terran player, so he's able to get his economy back up and going. He's still at a much lower amount of SCVs, but of course he does have mules, so that always helps. And you can kind of see right now he's at a higher income than the Zerg player, even though he's below in workers. Now he's able to take out both the 5th and the 4th base for the Zerg here, and this composition is just a beautiful A-move composition. He doesn't need to put a whole lot of thought into it. He's not even sieging his tanks, he's basically just going and moving across the map. Now, the Zerg player to come up with the answer to this goes for Broodlords. Now, the Broodlords is not a bad answer. I mean, he has enough ground army at the times to deal with this. Like, you see the Lings coming in there, and the Broodlings are great. And the problem is Thors are actually rather good against Broodlords once all of the support units are taken out. Right now he's not focusing firing, so this is going to work great. So if the Terran player doesn't focus fire, as he's doing now, you can see the focus fire, and they just can't reach, so they're walking around. Stupid Thors. It happens. So the Thors are taken out, and the Broodlord army actually does rather well, even though the Thors are technically supposed to counter them. We will see now the Terran player is going to, in return, besides making Thors, he'll probably make Vikings, so we need some sort of anti-air in there also. So we'll kind of see where he goes with that. He is basically staying on mech. He's not going to be changing very much. His composition is actually rather good for this part of the game. So let's go ahead and go to the 24-11 mark. Now, as we're going to see here, the Zerg player is going to stay on Broodlords. He's going to get Corruptors to kind of deal with anti-air, and he's going for Lings to deal with all the ground damage, but we have Planetary Fortresses at the 4th. The Zerg, by the way, is expanded back to its his 5th base, and the worker count's getting closer to the same. But that Terran mech army is still able to basically do a lot of damage if he can get the proper engagement, because those Corruptors are not going to help against the Thors at all. So we can, as we're kind of seeing here, the Broodlords are coming in, and those ground armies getting taken out by the Hellbats. Those Broodlings are just going down, and the Thors are going to go to work on the Broodlords. Now, besides the Thors and all that, we also have Vikings coming in, and those things, the Vikings are taking down the Corruptors, and they'll be working on the Broodlords also. Meanwhile, the Hellbats are actually dealing a lot of damage to the hatchery, and now the Infestors come in. They were there, and they're just a little late. Now, we do have a great move here. He's losing his army, but he's gonna run in with the Zerglings and take out the income coming from that third base. That's a great move on his part. He's obviously losing this battle here. He might as well try to get in there, but that surround with the SCVs, the mass repair, is going to end up causing problems. The question is, can he even take out that command center? And I don't think he's going to. It looks like that command center is going to survive, and this was just, it came out to be a no-win situation for the Zerg. There were no positives from there. His army was taken out by the Mech army, which is now just standing there. Again, this is a lower league play, so we're not moving incredibly fast. So the question is, where do we go from here? We have an economic lead for the Zerg player, but we have a compositional lead for the Terran player right now. He is struggling on his macro though. Let's go ahead and jump to the 2750 mark. Now I should note that I just looked to the side here, and this is actually a platinum game. So these are players with decently good mechanics. This is a really funky game, so they're probably out of their comfort zone right now. Now we have a great engagement here. Now the Zerg player's gone mass Hydra at this point. This is his answer after the last army was destroyed, and we can see the Mech army just plowing through this army, the tanks and the Thors and the Hellbats and the mines. Well, if you think about it, mines do a lot of damage. The Hellbats do, Hellions do damage to light units, and those Hydras are light units. The tanks in particular will do good splash damage when they're siege, even though they were not siege. And then the Thors are just going to soak up a lot of damage. Again, a compositional win. Now let's go ahead and jump to the 30-minute and 35-second. As you can see, this game is rather long. Now we see the Zerg player finally, as the Terran player is moving to his 5th expansion and the Zerg player is working on his 6th. So we see Madison actually going for Swarm Host. Now I honestly feel that this is the correct answer against Mech. Swarm Host with Infestors have a great synergy, kind of like the old Broodlord Infestor did. It seems to work rather well. Now you can see he doesn't currently have the long light upgrade for the Locust, so he's not quite able to make it across to where he needs to do good damage. But having the upgrades share between the Locusts and things like Hydras and Roaches, which he's had already in the past, is great. Good synergy there. Basically, kind of the same way with Broodlords, you need that ability to defend your Swarm Host. Now we do have the Mech army pushing through the middle, clearing creep here. This is very important for the Mech army. First off, that creep gives vision for the Zerg player. Secondly, it allows the Zerg units to be faster, and that's going to be something that surrounds and things like that for Mech armies is entirely really hard to deal with. Now we do have the Mech army here trying to push forward into these Swarm Hosts, and we do have a fair amount of Hydras that give and Queens that give air support, and then we have all of the Locusts coming in now. The Locusts are going to be able to focus fire down, well, at least on the bottom right, they're focus firing down the Thors one at a time. We do have the Vikings on top making quick work of the Overseers, but there's not any mines currently. We have like 1 or 2 mines in there. Now, the second wave of Locusts are going to pop out here while the Hydralists and the Queens are getting slowly taken out. And these Locusts are going to finally finish off all the Thors, and all that's left now are just the air units. Now, the Vikings are going to land, and they're going to try to go out, because we do have a Raven there. They're going to go through and try to clear out all these Swarm Hosts. But there is, the Swarm Hosts are actually on Barrow and pull away. There we go. They're just repositioning. They're going to drop their Locusts, and hopefully the Vikings now will, there we go, lift up and get out of there. Now, we do have a Hydras still coming in to pick off all the air units, and it looks like these Vikings, even though they had a great micro there and lifting up away from the Locusts, which can only shoot the ground, only 2 of them are going to get out, and it looks like these Hydras are going to actually catch them, and it looks like both Vikings are going to go down. So every Viking's out. We do have the long life upgrade finally coming down for those Locusts too, and more Swarm Hosts coming out. Now we do have Vipers coming out too. Let's go ahead and jump to the 35-30 mark. Now this composition seems like this is the winner. So now the question is, how much damage can you do with it and how to engage? Now, a lot of higher level players do things because they end up with so many drones and run out of use for them that they make tons of stationary defenses. You get spores and spines, and you push with those with the Swarm Hosts. And you can see these Locusts just rip through things. There's nothing all of these SCVs can do. The planetary fortress went down without a single problem. So he has Hydras and Queens for air support because he still needs to worry about stuff like that. I mean, it would be horrible to be caught off guard by things such as battle cruisers or banshees flying in and you just have no anti-air. Now he is using his hydralisks as forward aggressive here while the locusts are trying to pile in from the back. That's okay. That was only an orbital. It's not the end of the world. He is going to pick off every single one of these SCVs, and he's taking a commanding lead as far as the SCV count, worker count goes, with almost double the amount of workers at this point. Now we do see that his production is kind of stalling. It is, he has a lot of money, and he's running high on supply now. So as he's creating that bank, he's going to be able to deal with remaxing faster. Now we do have the Hellions here, and the Hellions are going to get picked off by the Hydras here, and the Locusts are spawning finally. They're a little bit late burrow, and they're going to come in. A lot of blinding clouds go down on the mech army, which is good. The Thors try to micro out of it, and we do have all of the Hydras still getting picked off. Hydras are not really great at dealing with mech. They do a lot of damage. We see him either Hunter Seeker missiles his own army just then. I'm not totally sure why. But we do have the mines coming down with the Ravens and the Thors coming in. It looks like these swarm hosts are going to be all but dealt with at this point. Now I do feel that the right composition for this, to kind of talk about that while we have this army getting cleaning up the Zerg army there, would be to add in infestors. You have infested Terrans and fungal growth to deal with air units, as we have roaches. Bad rallies, the roaches kind of walk to their death there, but we do have these roaches coming in and they're going to take a few shots. A mine's still going off in the background while roaches clean those up, and then we have a Thor caught off on its own that's going to go down. There are a couple Widow mines there, so they can get a shot off here too. Now, that Thor is going to be taken down also, and there goes the Widow mine. Not taking down all those roaches completely, but this group of Thors here is going to come through and clear out the fourth base again for the Terran player. Now, Madison is trying to, he has money, he's remaxing on roaches. Again, not necessarily the best unit to use at this point. They're damage dealing for things against tanks, not the most ideal. He had the right idea with the swarm host. Those locusts are incredibly strong against mech armies, especially mech armies that have to push in through these single pathways. They can't split up like the bio does. Now, infested Terrans and fungal take care of air units. Fungal also can help with the ground units to keep the units away from the swarm host. I do believe that's going to be what we see for future use of the more of the metagame against mech. We have players like Flash making mech more, not so much mainstream, but trying to show that it has possibilities. He uses it fairly often. A lot of it depends on success, depends on catching the Zerg player off guard, and a lot of new Zerg builds. Good burrow there to hide all those units. A lot of good Zerg builds are using mutas now on 2 bases to kind of scout. We have to think of the TLO build as a good example of that. Now, as we're kind of moving into the super late game, as the Terran army is dwindling down, he just doesn't have the money to remake it. He's down to about 4 Thors, and he can't even land his other SCV. Meanwhile, the Zerg player has this great bank. He's used it all up now to get an entire army, but he's back up at 150 supply compared to the 78 of the Terran player. Now, the Terran player's trying to long distance mine, but it's just not going to be enough. The Zerg player, on the other hand, is not fully kind of committing to end this game. It's been a very passive game on both ends, both the Terran and the Zerg player. Terran going mech naturally is very passive. He has to wait till he gets this fairly large army. Now we see the Ravens finally getting picked off and going down, but they do get a Hunter Seeker missile off each. That's going to go in, and very good hits there. Question is it enough? And I don't think it is. We still have 138 supply to 70. We have a mining base for the Zerg where we don't have one for the Terran player at the moment. And we do have the Thors coming in, but it's just a matter of surrounding those Thors with these units. Now this Roach Hydra, maybe not the best composition, but at the same time, when you're double the supply of the Terran player, it doesn't really matter at that point. He is pulling all the drones off to get some surface area on the Thors, maybe to distract them a little bit. We do have the Hydras and the Roaches coming in, and that's pretty much going to clean up this entire army of Thors. And the Terran player, with only 180 minerals in the bank, just doesn't have anything to remax, and all he can make now is Widow Mines, and probably he does have gas. We'll give him that. He has gas, but nothing really that Terran can make at this point is going to be using a lot of gas and no minerals. Now, it is all about the end of this game is just going to be the Zerg kind of pushing through and ending this. It does look like he's going to be able to come in and take out this planetary fortress. The Terran player's trying to fix it, but he only has 4 SCVs there, and that's just not going to be enough. The orbital's going to go down also. And we do see that there's only 7 harvesters left for the Zerg player. Now, after that engagement with the Thors, we can see that the Zerg player is also down to only about 16 harvesters also, so they're both low. Now, we do have some Hellions and mines here, and these mines are burrowed, so they're going to get some good shots off. Now, the beauty of roaches is roaches have a lot of armor, and they tend to take a lot of hits, which is really good against those Widow Mines. And we do have Infestors down too, which is going to help. So the Infestors and Vipers as the spellcasters for the Zerg are, well, poor queen. the good spellcasters. Now, the problem with Infestors is, of course, that they've changed Bungle to where it has the projectile, so it's not so easy to hit. But both of them are very useful units. They can pull units in with their Vipers. They can get them stuck and do damage with the Infestors. The Infestors also have the Infested Terran, which can do damage to air. Let's go ahead and skip ahead a little bit more. We can see that the Terran's been making SCVs. He's going to try to come in and he has a mass Widow Mine army. Is basically all he's been able to afford now. Now we do have the Roaches coming in. Now, great use of, we were talking about the spellcasters, great use of Blinding Cloud. There's that planetary fortress is completely useless. He can't even take shots. We have some micro going down on the Hydras that keep with that orbital command, so it can't get away also. And the Zerg army is just plowing through, just killing bases. Now we do see that the Widow Mines took down all the units, but in fact one SCV killed that base, or 2 SCVs. Let's go ahead and skip ahead to the 47:55 minute. This game's still going. And then right now we can kind of see that the Zerg player is at not as much of an advantage. Those Widow Mines have been evening things out here. He still can't land those command centers to get past the creep, but the supply has evened out some. We do see that the bank is fully spent for Madison, our Zerg player, and Matt is down to just gas. He just has gas in the bank, much as before. His situation hasn't changed much. Now we do have fungal growth going down on those Widow Mines, catching them in place. The Widow Mines do go off the ones that burrow, but we do have the army, the Zerg army, coming in there, and it just a move command right into it. Not the best engagement. All the Overseers go down, and and now the Widow Mines, even though there's no Overseer, trying to get out of there. I'm not totally sure why he landed that command center there. Maybe just to slow him down so he get the Widow Mines out. That makes sense. We'll go with that. We do see that the Zerg player is actually re-expanding to the north base to try to get more income back in. And the game goes on. So we're going to go to 49-48 and see what's going on now. Now we still have these 2 armies fighting in this spot. So they're basically trading position. The Hydras push in, the Widow Mines pull back out. The Widow Mines push in, the Hydras pull out. We're basically down to all light units, which is not good news against mass. And poor SCV goes down to the Spine Crawler. Now, Widow Mines can't attack Spine Crawlers. It's a building, so there's nothing they can do. They have to just run past it. But they do a lot of damage to those light units, and that's kind of what we're seeing. Now, we can see it's 54-33. There's a slight income for the Zerg player, so in the long run, the Zerg player is just in a better position here. The question is can he get it used? And it looks like those Widow Mines are going to burrow there. Then the Zerg player smartly walks away. He has to get a good engagement on these Widow Mines. This is all that's left. These Widow Mines die, and it's over. And he runs in, and good hit there. Good hit. Wow, insane range. You always forget that if you're in the range for those Widow Mines, they'll follow you. So keep that in mind while you're baiting out the Widow Mines like that. Now the Zerglings are trying to pick them off while we're taking another base up here in the top right. Widow Mines go down, and it looks like that looks like all of them. I don't think there's any more shots left in those Widow Mines. He just needs to take it out. Now the Overseer comes in, and it looks like all those Widow Mines get picked off, and the game is over. Now this was a great game. It was fun, really long. I watched the entire thing. I just cut it up for you so that we have some highlights to look at. There wasn't really a huge lesson in that game like we'd like to do in the quick cast, except for maybe unit composition. we saw that the mass amount of macro for that Zerg player won him the game. He was actually able to try 3 or 4 different compositions to go in there. He started out with the Ling Baneling Muta, which was used for bio play. That didn't work out too much because he was going up against Mech. He ended up doing a lot of damage with Broodlords and a lot of damage with the Swarm Hosts, and I do believe the Swarm Hosts were the right idea, so take that from this. Alright, so now everybody, please like and subscribe to this video, and follow me on Facebook and Twitter. All those things are important. You can email me if you like. I'll put that in the description down below. Now, until we talk next time, I want to make more games, so you let me know what you want to see, and I'll make it. So go out, play those games, and have fun.